Om. Om Namo Bhagavate Guru Bedurya Prabharajaya Tathagataya Arahate Samyasam Buddhaya Teyata Be Ganze Maha Be Ganze Raja Samugate Harini Sa Maha Sarva Siddhi Phala Om Namo Bhagavate Guru Bedurya Prabharajaya Tathagataya Arahate Samyasam Buddhaya Teyata Ben Ganze Maha Ben Ganze Raja Samugade Harini Sa Maha Sarva Siddhi Phala Om Namo Bhagavate Guru Bedurya Prabharajaya Tathagataya Arahate Samyasam Buddhaya Teyata Be Ganze Maha Be Ganze Raja Samugate Harini Sa Maha Sarva Siddhi Phala Om Namo Bhagavate Guru Bedurya Prabharajaya Tathagataya Arahate Samyasam Buddhaya Teyata Be Ganze Maha Be Ganze Raja Samugate Harini Sa Maha Sarva Siddhi Phala Om Namo Bhagavate Guru Bedurya Prabharajaya Tathagataya Arahate Samyasam Buddhaya Teyata Be Ganze Maha Be Ganze Raja Samugate Harini Sa Maha Sarva Siddhi Phala Om Namo Bhagavate Guru Bedurya Prabharajaya Tathagataya Arahate Samyasa Buddhaya Teyata Be Ganze Maha Be Ganze Raja Samugate Harini Sa Maha Sarva Siddhi Phala Om Namo Bhagavate Guru Bedurya Prabharajaya Tathagataya Arahate Samyasam Buddhaya Teyata Be Ganze Maha Be Ganze Raja Samugate Harini Sa Maha Sarva Siddhi Phala Om Namo Bhagavate Guru Bedurya Prabharajaya Tathagataya Arahate Samyasam Buddhaya Teyata Be Ganze Maha Be Ganze Raja Samugade Harini Sa Maha Sarva Siddhi Phala Good evening, everyone. Please turn to page 10 of the Sadhana. So I will read one time in English, and then we will chant accordingly in Tibetan. Sorry, I said I will read in English. In the Buddha, Dharma, and Supreme Assembly Supreme, I take refuge until enlightenment is reached. Through virtuous actions like generosity, may I reach Buddhahood to help all beings. Sanje Chodang Sogi Chonam La Chanchu Bardu Dani Kyapsu Je Dagi Jinsu Kibe Sonang Ki Drola Penche Sanje Drupra Shu Sanje Chodang Sogi Chonam La Chanchu Bardu Dani Kyapsu Je Dagi Jinsu Kibe Sonang Ki Drola Penche Sanje Drupra Shu Sanje Chodang Sogi Chonam La Chanchu bardu dani gyabzu je dagi junsu gebe sonangi drola pencher sanje drubar sho. I go for refuge unto the three jewels. I confess every non-virtue and misdeed. I rejoice in the virtues of wanderers. In my mind, I hold on to awakening. In the Buddha, Dharma, and Great Assembly, I take refuge until enlightenment is reached. To accomplish the aims of self and others, I shall arouse the mind of awakening. Having aroused the mind of great awakening as my guests, I shall take care of every being. I shall practice pleasing bodhisattva conduct. May Buddhahood be achieved to help all beings. Kunja sumla dhagyam je dekpa mige sosor sha dhuwe gela je ye rang sanje chanju yegi sun sanje chodang socho la chanju bardu dhagyam je rangshen duni rabdu je chanju joni sem ke par ge chanju jogi semni kegi ne semchen tamche dagi dhundu ne chanju jojo iwon je par ge Drola Pincher Sanje Drupra Sho. Then page 11. May all sentient beings have happiness and the causes of happiness. May they be freed from suffering and the causes of suffering. May they not be separated from happiness without suffering. May they abide in equanimity, freed from the bias of attachment and aversion to those near and far. Senchen tamche dewa dang dewe gyudan dembara gyurji dungya dang dungya gi gyudan rewa gyurji dungya mepe dewa dang me rewa gyurji niring chadang nidang rewa dang nyang la nebra gyurji senchen tamche dewa dang dewe gyudan dembara gyurji dungya dang dungya gi gyudan rewa gyurji Tungya mepe dewa dhammi dewa gyurji niring chadang nidang drawe tangyong la nepra gyurji semchen tamje dewa dang dewe gyudan dambra gyurji tungya dang tungya gi gyudan dewa gyurji tungya mepe dewa dhammi dewa gyurji niring chadang nidang drawe tangyong la nepra gyurji. Again, good evening to everyone. So today is, this evening is the first of a few of the Thursday nights, next few Thursday nights that I will do my best to share with you whatever that I know about this particular practice and this particular sadhana. So even though we have scheduled 4 Thursdays, we might end after 3 Thursdays. It depends on how much we cover each Thursday. So before I start, I want to see, if anyone has any questions about the retreat, what you experienced there, what you saw there, anything, not so much specific to the sadhana. You probably have questions about the different parts of the sadhana, but more generally, anything about the retreat, any feedback even. I mean, don't need any praises, but any feedback in terms of you might, have some questions or comments. Then sometimes, it's also good for us to be able to tell you, actually, we thought of that and we tried to resolve that, or we thought of that, but we thought, the alternative might be better. So at least, we can kind of share some of this so that what the thought process was to do it one way or the other way. So let's see, if anyone has any questions. We're a very small group. Don't be shy. Even if you are shy to show your face, you can still ask your questions using the audio, or even if you are shy about that, just type in the chat and then someone can read it out.
I have a question.
Mm-hmm.
Can you say something about the benefit of accumulating the mantra?
Sure. Generally, in Vajrayana especially, the accumulation of mantra well, before we go to Vajrayana, more broadly, the Buddha taught that karma first arises from the mind. If mind isn't there, then karma isn't formed. So then when it comes to karma, there are skillful karma and unskillful karma, often called, virtuous actions and non-virtuous actions. Then actions consist of physical actions, verbal actions, and mental emotional actions. Yeah? So 3 types of actions, 3 types of karmas. And these karmas can be either virtuous or non-virtuous, skillful or not skillful. What's skillful, what's virtuous are actions that produce happiness, actions that are unvirtuous or unskillful are those that result in suffering. Yeah. So then, of these 3 types of karma, the physical and the verbal karmas alone, right? The body and our speech cannot really accomplish anything. So the mind has to be there to cooperate. So then, on that level, then, mind is the boss, is the one that determines the quality of our actions. So first of all, then, mantra recitation or mantra accumulation is a way to work on the level of the mind. To work on the level of the mind. primarily that. Now, even though mantras are verbally sounded, so then it also becomes a verbal action, a verbal karma. But during these types of mantra accumulation, it is said that you should synchronize body, speech, and mind. Body, speech, and minds should be synchronized so that the whole dimension of your being is focused on whatever virtuous activity that you're engaged in. In this context, in immersing body, speech, and mind in medicine Buddha, in actualizing the exalted body, speech, and mind of medicine Buddha. Yeah. So to do that, mentally, the mind has to be anchored on the visualization. And for the visualization, it's not just one thing. You have many options, what you're going to choose to let the mind rest in. Then verbally, mantra is recited. Then physically is how you sit, how you place yourself. So if you're using beats to count, so all those are pertaining to physical. Then more specifically in Vajrayana, for example, in Pemasambhava, Guru Rinpoche's instructions to his main disciple as well as his spiritual consort, Yeshe Tsogyo. In the instructions to Yeshe Tsogyo, Guru Rinpoche says, when it comes to the for the purpose of one's own freedom from suffering and achieving the Buddha state, then accumulations of the mind is most crucial. Meaning training the mind is most crucial. Then he says, but when it comes to developing the ability to benefit others, he says, then accumulation, verbal accumulation of mantra is important. Yeah, so somehow, yeah, the verbal accumulation of mantra is very much related to the development of the qualities or the abilities to be able to connect better, to be able to help better those beings that we would like to help. So there's some kind of interdependence between the verbal accumulation of mantra and the ability to connect with beings. Yeah, so I think, if you think about speech, speech is all about what? Communication, right? In ways that mind, although mind is primary, without mind, there cannot be speech, right? But speech specifically is about communicating. So there is a special interdependence in the realm of mantric speech, so to say, accumulating mantra, and the ability to connect and benefit others. In fact, Yeshe Tsogyo, it is said, was so diligent, perhaps even extreme, you could say. But extreme or not depends on the individual, every individual we have our own karma. So extreme or not, I think it's case by case. It's not like everyone has to do this or nobody has to do this. But at least one example, Yeshe Tsogyo. Yeshe Tsogyo is probably the most kind of accomplished woman in Tibet in terms of accomplishing the Buddha Dharma. Yeshe Tsogyo was the most accomplished of all women in Tibet. But it is said that in the course of her practice, she accumulated mantra through verbal recitation to the point that her throat was bleeding, that she was coughing up blood, that her throat was so over-exhausted that it started to bleed. I'm not at all recommending that anyone do that per se. I'm also not saying that is extreme, because if Yeshe Tsogyo did not kind of endeavor so single-mindedly, so focused, so dedicated, then she would not be the Yeshe Tsogyo that we know and admire today within the Tibetan Buddhist world. So mantra accumulation has that power. Now, to be fair, I think at the same time, right, mantra accumulation can also deteriorate into just mere verbal accumulation. Then the mind is wandering around, or worse, the mind is planning all kinds of unskillful, unvirtuous things while the mouth, is accumulating mantra. Then, of course, it won't work, and it's kind of a waste of time. But it is said that, if your mind, body, speech, and mind are coordinated, then mantra accumulation can gather strength and momentum for your practice. Yeah, so that's one way to talk about this.
Thank you.
So along those lines, it's very common in Tibetan Buddhist practices when you are given specifically a practice to do. If you go to someone and say, can you guide me? Can you teach me? Can you mentor me? Then before long, that person might say, okay, for this particular practice, please do 100,000 of this mantra or 1,000,000 of that mantra. Many of us have done 100,000 full prostrations as a preliminary. 100,000 recitation of the Vajrasattva mantra, which is about 2.5 times the length of this particular Medicine Buddha mantra. 100,000 mandala offering. And then during mandala offering in some lineage, not only do you offer mandala, you also do prostration during mandala offering. So that's another 100,000. So, Tibetan Buddhism loves the numbers. 100,000 this, 100,000 that. And then shorter mantras, then 1,000,000 that you have to accumulate. So in the mala beads, all kinds of counting, tallying devices are attached to this. So these are not just decorations, although many people just put them there as decorations, all these dangling things. But these are counting, for tallying your mantras. So there's 2 on the side, one with the shape of a vajra at the end, and one with the shape of the bell at the end. So you designate, like these are for hundreds and these are for thousands. So you recite the whole mala one round is 100, then you push one of these beads up. So when 10 of these go up, they all come back down. Then on this side that you designate as 1,000 goes up. And then when you're finished 10,000, right? Then one of these, or not one of these, then this moves one bead over. So if there are 7 beads now, then perhaps, whatever mantra it is I'm doing, I already have 70,000. Yeah. So then, so on and so forth. And so this can be for the 10,000s. This could be for the 100,000s. And so, all sorts of things to keep track. So in some ways, it provides focus. But again, as I said, it can also derail people because then you become too focused on, how much have I accumulated? How much have I accumulated? I was at one retreat where it was for like 2 weeks, an open-ended kind of set of practices that we had to do. So the teacher started the retreat by giving some basic instructions on reciting the 3 syllables, Om Ah Hum. Om Ah Hum. Just the 3 syllables. After giving some basic instructions, the evening of the start of the retreat started in the evening. Then he said, so before before the teachings will unfold, for these 2 weeks, I need everyone to accumulate 600,000 Om Ah Hums. One for each realm of existence. This is to put some effort into purifying whatever karma that might lead you to rebirth in any of these 6 realms of confused existence. Do 100,000 Om Ah Hum for each of the 6 realms. And until all 20, I don't know how many of us, until all of you have finished 600,000, the teachings will not start. So good luck. It took most of us, like 3 days of about 10 hours at least a day of Om Ah Hum. And then, when other people have finished, and they're leisurely walking around, and you still, the pressure builds, even no time to eat, quickly eat something and go back to Om Ah Hum, Om Ah Hum, Om Ah Hum, Om Ah Hum, Om Ah Hum. Any other general questions from the retreat? Yeah, if not, then so this text that we used for the last retreat, it's called Treasury of Siddhis. Yeah? So I have, since the retreat, I've gotten a chance to look at the original Tibetan, not the original Tibetan that's already in here, in preparing this translation, but to go back to some of the collections, the traditional collections. Now it's just amazing, as majority of these have been digitized. So you can go and look for the particular volume. So I know from the notes in here that this particular version of this sadhana means the means of accomplishment. In Tibetan, drup tup. Tup is method or means. Drup is accomplishment, or accumulation is also drup. So drup tup or sadhana means the means of accomplishment. So I know that this particular version, this particular translation that we used, is the version that comes from what's known as the Rinchen Terzud. Because Jamgon Kongtru's name is involved in this particular version. So I did the pre-retreat teachings. I don't know, some of you might have, participated, and others maybe not. There I talked about Jamgon Kongtru, right? Jamgon Kongtru is late 1800s, and he was a Karmakagyu Lama who collaborated with two other main lamas, one from the Nyingma and one from the Sakya, but also with many, many others, but primarily him and two other, Jamyang Khyentse Wangpo and Chogyo Lingpa, three of them. And they worked together and created basically sort of like a renaissance of Dharma in Eastern Tibet, in the Kham area. This renaissance is subsequently to be identified as what's known as Ri-me. Ri is mountains, me is no. It means that we don't have mountains separating us. That's the meaning of Ri-me. We don't let the mountains separate us. So this has been translated into English as the non-sectarian movement. This is actually a topic for some other day, but I want to make a quick comment. Non-sectarian for these lamas don't mean make up your own after you have studied a bunch. And take a little bit from this tradition, a little bit from that tradition, and a little bit of that tradition, and then come up with your own brand and patent it. Not non-sectarian like that. It also did not mean do a little bit of this, a little bit of that. It meant that you regard all those traditions that are universally accepted as the Buddhist tradition. You regard all of them with an impartial mind. Doesn't mean you personally don't have preferences. You can have preferences, but you should not kind of look down on those teachings or practices or traditions or lineages that you did not choose as what you prefer. So you should have respect, and not only that, but concern about the flourishing of those traditions. So these three lamas were really concerned about obscure and weak traditions, and those weak traditions that might disappear if those traditions weren't, kind of promoted. So in that effort, Jamgon Kongtru in particular, the most productive of the three was Jamgon Kongtru in terms of how much he produced. So Jamgon Kongtru, basically what he did was he went all over Tibet, central Tibet, eastern Tibet especially, central Tibet as well. I believe he went to western Tibet too. He went far and near, collecting any and all practice traditions that he could find, or he read about historically. If he read about, oh, historically there is this one particular practice, with a, maybe 5-arm, medicine Buddha, so he would read, voraciously. And if he finds a reference to that, then he tries, then first thing he would ask is, does anyone in this area know anything about this? And if nobody knows, he's like, okay, I need to go find out, if beyond this area, if somebody continues to practice. And I need to go receive these instructions myself, go into retreat, experience this, and then pass this on to others. So one major collection that he brought together is called the Rinchen Terzut. Rinchen Terzut, Zut is collection or treasury, literally. Here, Ter is talking about Dharma. Dharma are all these treasure texts that predominantly is said to have been concealed by Guru Rinpoche's students, Pema Sambhava's students. These were instructions and teachings and empowerments that Guru Rinpoche, Pema Sambhava, in the 7th century, in the 7th, 8th century, gave his Tibetan disciples for the purpose of it being concealed, so that throughout Tibetan history, whenever Dharma is in decline in whatever area, Guru Rinpoche said, I will manifest myself, or I will cause these disciples. He says to these disciples, you will manifest, you will be reborn to retrieve this particular treasure, because it will be good for the people of that time in that particular area to get a boost, so to say, of pure Dharma. And so all these treasures are called Dharma. So Terzut is collection or the treasury of Dharmas, Rinchen Terzut. In the Rinchen Terzut, there are, I think, a couple of thousand empowerments. The giving of the Rinchen Terzut, in terms of giving the ritual empowerments, doing the oral transmission like Rinpoche did, for this at the beginning of the retreat. And then giving some instructions on how to practice. These days, it takes like 5-6 months. Each day, 10 to 12 hours of empowerments for 5 to 6 months. Yeah. Now, so this particular practice is in the Rinchen Terzut, because the inspiration of this practice was actually a dharma. Was actually a dharma that was retrieved in the 15th century. But this practice wasn't put together until the 17th century. So 200 years in between the discovery of the treasure on which this was composed, based on the treasure. So I looked at the Rinchen Terzut, looked at the version in the Rinchen Terzut. What we have here, just so you know, is everything that is in the Rinchen Terzut version, this text has it. And then some. For example, the very first lineage prayer on page 5. This lineage prayer on page 5 is not in the Rinchen Terzut, in the Sadhana in the Rinchen Terzut. I have a suspicion that in the Rinchen Terzut, it might be there, but in the empowerment text. In the Rinchen Terzut, which there are thousands of texts, grouped together according to what they call cycles. So this Sambhogakaya Medicine Buddha cycle is very small. Only 3 texts remain. So that means Jamgon Kongtru's time, in the late 18th century, he couldn't find a lot of material on this tradition. He found so he included only 3 texts. One is an empowerment text. That means how to give this Sambhogakaya Medicine Buddha empowerment. So the empowerment text. Then there is the Sadhana text, which is the practice text, which is this. And then there is a text for making offerings to the main protector of the Medicine Buddha teachings, Shanglong. And that was composed by one of the Chungsang Rinpoches, Drigung Kagyu Chungsang Rinpoche. And this sadhana was composed by the first Chungsang Rinpoche, and his name is Rigzin Choki Drakpa. And he lived in the 17th century, the time of the 5th Dalai Lama. They were friends. So Rigzin Choki Drakpa composed the sadhana. Then I think his next incarnation, the second Chungsang, if I'm not mistaken, composed the protector offering text. So if the lineage prayer that is starting on page 5 comes from the Rinchen Terzut, then it must come from the empowerment text. Unfortunately, I didn't get time. I was going to look at it today, but I didn't get time to go check and see if the lineage prayer comes from there. Then the other thing I did, perhaps more important, I feel, is I also looked at Rigzin Choki Drakpa's collected works. Okay? Meaning the author of this text, the first Chungsang Rinpoche, he has his collected works. So I was curious to see, first of all, if this sadhana exists in his collected works. It's not surprising if it's not there, in fact. But it is there. This sadhana is in Choki Drakpa's collected works. But when you look at the sadhana in the collected works and you compare it to the one in Rinchen Terzut, I would say everything that is in Rigzin Choki Drakpa's collected works, in that version of the sadhana, everything that is there is in here. But this has about 20% more. So Jamgon Kongtru added to it, which he tells us at the end of this. If you have read, all the notes, he tells us. He says, I did not mess with, he says, I did not mess with Choki Drakpa's original text, aside from, he says, adding here and there to supplement and to make it more robust based on the instructions of my guru, which is Jamyang Khyentse Wangpo, one of the 3 great non-sectarian lamas. And so he said Jamyang Khyentse Wangpo kind of guided him in where to, add a section here, a section there, to make it more robust. Yeah. So as we go through this text, I will point out for you which are the parts that Kongtru, Jamgon Kongtru added. Yeah, which are the parts that is the original Rigzin Choki Drakpa's original. So quickly, the update. This next retreat with Tritsap Rinpoche is, I'm sorry if I was vague during the end of the retreat, but it will be a medicine Buddha retreat. same practice. And but now it looks like it's probably not going to happen until end of October, early November. Because Rinpoche, organized by the Vietnamese students, Rinpoche is leading a 3 kaya, you might have seen on Facebook, a 3 kaya, meaning a practice of Amitabha, Avalokiteshvara, and Guru Rinpoche practice in mid-September. So we just publicized that on the Urban Dharma page for Facebook to allow people to register to join the September 3 Kayas of the Lotus Family retreat. That retreat, in a nutshell, to participate, you need to do the whole day on Friday and whole day on Saturday. It'll begin Thursday night, then whole day Friday, whole day Saturday, and end on Sunday morning. And the Vietnamese are the main organizers. So this time they're handling Zoom. I am scot-free. I'm not responsible for that. We are just helping to register people in the Americas. Yeah, I think Nathan provided the link there. Yeah. So partly because of that retreat, we thought we should space it out a little so that we'll do it end of October, early November, and I will announce. So my point, coming back to related to this text, I'm right now discussing with Rinpoche whether he wants to go back to the original Rigzin Choki Drakpa text, which means 20% shorter than what's here. If he wants to go back to that earlier version, undecided at this point. Yeah. So, okay, before I continue, I will breathe and have a sip of my tea. You have any questions? Now is a good time to ask.
I have 2 questions.
Mm-hmm.
We studied about the importance of the lineage.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm just sort of curious how a discovered text, which could happen at any random time, really.
This is not random. The whole tradition.
No, I don't mean, yeah, but I mean, it comes in a time which is unpredictable to us.
Yes.
Really what I mean.
Mm-hmm.
So how does something which is newly discovered gain legitimacy in terms of being in the lineage?
Oh,
is it because of the authority of the person, like Choki Drapa? He's
but it wasn't easy. Even so, these individuals called Tertans, Tertans are people who discovered Dharmas.
Yeah,
they were quite controversial in their own time.
But eventually, the lineage head makes a judgment or decides.
No, it's really the Tertans have to demonstrate and convince people that these are legitimate.
Okay.
Then you even have stories of how a Tertan was revealing the right Dharmas, and then at a certain point they got misled and they started to improvise their own Dharmas. So there are also stories like that. So for sure, these were questioned. People had healthy skepticism towards these claims. Dharma,
right.
You just made it up yesterday.
You just made it up.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
But eventually the lineage heads.
No, it's not so much the lineage heads. Heads of lineages are not like the popes of Catholicism.
Okay.
Powers are somewhat limited.
Okay.
Yeah.
But the leaders, the authorities, eventually accept.
Yeah, you could say that. And so if the head of the lineage starts like receiving that practice and doing the practice, it helps, It
helps.
So if you're a Tertan, it behooves you to have a prominent person in your time you know,
Yes.
accepting your dharma.
Right. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
My second question, and this is not to be argumentative, and maybe there's not a good answer, but if we accept the teaching of the importance of lineage, but Buddha did not come from a lineage, or he was not really, he's the originator, the one who revealed to us, right?
Yes.
In other words, he is self.
No, that wasn't his only lifetime.
Okay. Well, my question is he in a lineage?
Oh, yes, you know. He had his teachers.
Okay.
Yeah.
Whether they were in this lifetime or before.
Right, right.
Okay.
Then in Vajrayana, it says, you know, the Siddhartha that you all saw, you know, that's not really literally in that lifetime became Buddha. This is someone who already became Buddha bazillion lifetimes before. He just emanated as part of his post-enlightenment career, so to say. He emanated this lifetime, this story, this prince, this struggle, when in fact he is already Buddha. Yeah, so if you look at page 3, starting on 3, so everything on page 3 and 4 is in Rizin Choki Drakpa's original text. So very typically, they begin by paying homage to Buddhas or lineage masters that are most relevant to the topic at hand. So here, the first verse pays homage to Medicine Buddha, right? Then, so not much to say there, pretty straightforward, yeah. Then, the next verse, it says, this extract has been carried by the lineage holders from the one named Dharmaswami. Dharmaswami, the original Tibetan, is Choje. Choje is a very common term given to high lamas. Literally, it means Dharma Lord, the Lord of the Dharma. So especially these days, you know, heads of lineages sometimes are called that, or representatives of the heads of lineages are also called Dharma Lords these days. So the Dharma Lords of Ladakh, you know, the Dharma Lord of Eastern Tibet. But here, Dharma Lord is referring to Zukar, so Z-U-R. Yeah, let me type it in the chat so that you have it. Zukar Nyamni Dorje. Zukar Nyamni Dorje lived from 1439 to 1475. So this second verse praises him. So he says, this extract has been carried by the lineage holders from the one named Dharmaswami. May the supreme lineage gurus be victorious. So Zukar Nyamni Dorje, a couple of things. One, most related to this practice, he was the Turton who discovered this treasure. Yeah. So the Sambhogakaya medicine Buddha form and the practice of that form was first revealed by Zukar Nyamni Dorje in the 15th century. of course, taught by Guru Rinpoche in the 7th century, but concealed as a dharma. Dzogkar Nyamni Dorje's significance goes beyond this practice. In fact, as it turns out, he was the founder of what's known as the Southern tradition of Tibetan medicine. At a certain point, Tibetan medicine, there were two main branches, like two approaches. The northern branch and the southern branch. South here refers to southern central Tibet. Southern central Tibet. So Dzogkar Nyamni Dorje, because he was from that area, and that area is called Dzogkar. So he's named after the place that he was born in the area of Dzogkar. So he founded this major branch of Tibetan medicine. It is said that he was the one who wrote a very detailed kind of Tibetan pharmacology text, identifying the elemental aspects of herbs and stones and medicinal substances. He sort of, you could say, sort of charted out the Tibetan medical elements chart. And also he wrote another, and it said that he himself you could say designed over 400 different formulas for treating diseases. Drugs, medicinal formulas. He developed over 400. So he was not just a spiritual figure, a Tertön, but he was also a very accomplished teacher, a doctor, physician. But not just physician, but you could say a PhD, MD, so to say. So he researched medical theory, pharmacology, produced medicines, and then also healed people. How many of you have heard of this fungus called Cordyceps? Yes? Okay. Others in Asia, you just don't know the name. Chongchao in Chinese. Cordyceps. So cordyceps are a type of fungus, basically. But it's a caterpillar. It's fungus, but it's caterpillar. It's in Tibetan. It's called Yartsa Gompo. Yeah, Yartsa Gompo is in Chinese, or you can translate it, because the Chinese are the main consumers of Yartsa Gompo, because it's well known in Chinese medicine as well. But it's called winter worm, summer grass. Winter worm, summer grass. What it is that in the winter, before it gets completely frozen, this worm, a caterpillar, would burrow itself into the ground. And then it dies because of the winter. Then in the summer, they would go harvest these. And then when you harvest it, it's a fossilized. But so goes the legend. But I think, botanists have said, it's a fungus. But this fungus, like one little tiny thing, can cost like between $8 to $15 per fungus, US dollars. $8 to $15 can feed, a family for a few days, in China right now. So it's very expensive. So I was told that according to modern researchers, the very first mention of the use of Yartsa Gompo is Zukar. This lama. Right? Not even in the Chinese sources. In the Chinese medical text, it came later. But it was Zukar in the 14th century, 15th century. The first attested reference to how potent this fungus is in Zukar's book. So that's who Dharmaswami is. Then the complete mandala of Lord Yuto and all the rest of the protectors that emanate soothing moonbeams that dispel anguish. So who is this Yuto? This is Yuto Yonten Gonpo. So again, Yuto, I'll type it. Yonten Gonpo. This Yuto Yonten Gonpo is 1126 to 1202. Yuto Yonten Gonpo, according to most modern contemporary historians, scholars, they say that although certainly there were forms of Tibetan medicine there's evidence of Tibetan medicine that as far back as about 4,000 years ago, what we now know as Tibetan medicine originated, was brought together, was codified, given its current form, recognizable, by Yuto Yonten Gonpo in the 12th century. That he was the great systematizer. Of course, earlier than him, there were other doctors. But Tibetan medicine as we know it today is Yuto Yonten Gonpo from the 12th century. Then there's another person called exactly the same name, Yuto Yonten Gonpo. Yuto is a family name. And this Yuto Yonten Gonpo, the first, is said to have lived in the 8th, 9th century. Most scholars think this is kind of a legendary figure. And most scholars agree that no doubt is the second Yuto Yonten Gonpo, the dates that I gave you, that is the founder of Tibetan medicine as we know it today. So here, when Chodra says, the complete mandala of Lord Yuto, in his mind, I'm sure it's both the Yuto. Because in the tradition, it says that this 12th century Yuto Yonten Gonpo is the reincarnation of the 8th century Yuto Yonten Gonpo. And these were all great physicians. More specifically, this is for the benefit of those of you who know this other tradition. Zukar Nyamni Dorje, the third one that discovered this treasure, he himself was a practitioner of what's known as Yuto Ningtik. Yuto Ningtik is a Dharma tradition as well that is said to link to the two Yutos. And that Yuto Ningtik combines the medical practice with the highest teachings of Buddhism, which in the Nyingma context is known as Dzogchen. So I think I mentioned last time, these days, there's one Tibetan doctor from Eastern Tibet, Dr. Nida, is doing a lot to promote Yuto Ningtik as a spiritual practice, and himself is also a Tibetan physician. So he has started many programs. In fact, they are just about to start a big kind of multi-year program for practicing Yuto Ningtik. So any one of you who want to, specialize in the Yuto Ningtik system, now is the opportunity to go seek him out. I personally don't know anything about him. I only know looking at what's going on Facebook, and I kind of follow one of his teaching assistants, this young man who got his PhD in the US, but is from South Africa. So I'm Facebook friends with this person, and from there and from other places. And I have some Tibetan friends who also know Dr. Nida, but I personally don't know him at all, don't know anything. So I'm not promoting him because he's a friend, but I'm just frankly saying, he is probably the most public and active promoter of the Yuto Ningtik. So we know that Dzogchen himself practiced Yuto Ningtik, but at some point he himself also discovered this terma. So it is in this way that this terma is linked with Yuto Ningtik tradition. Yeah, this is how they are linked. And so here, Chodra says, the complete mandala of Lord Yuto. That means referring to Yuto Ningtik practice. So sometimes this sadhana, or this cycle of dharma, which only 3 texts, is seen as like an appendix to the Yuto Ningtik. In the Yuto Ningtik itself, I might be mistaken, but if I'm not mistaken, in the Yuto Ningtik itself, there is no Sambhogakaya medicine Buddha form. In the Yuto Ningtik, I believe, I could be wrong because I've not looked into the text and the ins and the outs, but I believe there's no Sambhogakaya form. So Sambhogakaya form is something that this great practitioner of Yuto Ningtik, Dzogchen Nyamni Dorje, he discovered as a terma. So this is what this opening verses. Opening verses often tell us, give us a sense of like where this came from. And so finally on page 4, right, it says, after seeing beings being deceived by perverted practice, I felt that was unbearable. With the mind of faith, I swiftly pulled up the chariot of courageous intellect and wrote down this sadhana of the Sambhogakaya, medicine guru. In the verse before, Chodra says, there are many people practicing medicine. Yeah. And saying like during the time, earlier times, there are many people practicing medicine together with Dzogchen, meaning practicing the Yuto Ningtik system. There were many good doctors, but he says, but these days, this has deteriorated. And in fact, it has become, in his words, even perverted. So he says, now he wants to do, Rigzin Chodra, the first Chungzang, says he wants to kind of address the situation. And he composed this sadhana to help kind of revive the practice of combining the science of healing together with the spirituality of the Buddha Dharma. Yeah. Then just so you know, Rigzin Choki Drapa himself also is credited as having started a minor branch of Tibetan medicine called the Drigong system. But the Drigong system started with him. So he himself was also trained as a physician, and he also discovered or put together special formulas for treating different types of illnesses. Rigzin Chogi Drapa, the first Chongsang. In particular, the first Chongsang Rinpoche's formula for making this pill called the black pill, Drangjo Rilna. Drangjo is like the cooling black pill. There are different types of black pills. And this is different from Lama blessing pills. This is actually like pharmaceutical grade, so to say. It's for treating all sorts of things, like nerve problems and things like that. So the Drangjo, Drigong Drangjo, is still being made today. So, but not so easily available outside of Tibet. The last time I went to Tibet was, 6-7 years ago. That time I bought some of the Drigong Drangjo. They don't make a lot of it. Then last year, His Holiness Drigong Kyabgun, when he was in the US, before he left, he gave me a bunch of these black pills of Chogi Drakpa. I don't know, maybe he had too many things. He didn't want to carry them back to India, He said, okay, here, you can have them. One final thing about Zukar, who is called the Dharma Swami, the Dharma Lord. It is said that he was obviously a very special, very endowed with intelligence, and it's said that from a young age, he came from a family of doctors as well. One story said that when he was 4, his mother was really ill. Neither the father nor other famous doctors of the area were able to help her. But somehow this 4-year-old scribbled something and gave to the father and said, use this combination of herbs. And then the mother got well. He healed, cured his mother. But he did not formally study until medicine until he was, I think, 11 or 12. And then by age 19, he has already prepared for over 400 different formulas for treating diseases. But unfortunately, himself did not have such a long life. He died at the age of 39. And the circumstances of his death is that in the area there he lived and operated, which is today what we call Gongpo, southern Tibet as well. He was born in the area Zukar, but when he died, he was in the Gongpo area. And in that area, at that time in the 15th century, one of the most feared and dangerous diseases was leprosy. And many people got leprosy. And so he was a doctor that treated infectious diseases, particularly known for his ability to treat infectious diseases. It is said that when he died, right? He died while he was in retreat. That he decided to go into retreat in a hut up in the mountains, and then he passed away that way. But the local tradition in Zukar area, from that point until now, would repeat, in the Gongpo area, will repeat the story. They said that after he died, leprosy completely disappeared from Gongpo. So they believe that he took it with him. He took the threat of leprosy from the Gongpo area. And this is like what we call like actual Tonglen. He for real took on this and dispelled the disease from the area. And so he died at 39. So some modern scholars say he probably died of leprosy himself, having exposed himself to the disease in his treatment of all these lepers. Yeah. So that's Zukar Nyamni Dorje. Yeah. Okay, any questions? Traditionally, it's said, these stories are necessary to tell, they say, to instill confidence in the tradition. Just like Larry's question, well, anybody can say this is Dharma, third turn, what's your proof, So here I would say the proof is that, the area, the people, the medical tradition that he's founded to this day is one of the two main branches of Tibetan medicine. And more importantly, from a spiritual perspective, his great compassion, his dedication to curing others might even have led to his own death. And then his own death wasn't just an ordinary death, right, of a doctor who got exposed and failed, so to say, but miraculously, the disease that he spent his life curing disappeared from that area after his death. So these are the sum of the qualities of Zukar Nyamni Dorje. Yeah.
That really is an extraordinary story and example of the bodhisattva in the healer.
Yeah.
And or the healer and the bodhisattva. It's also such universal shamanic transformation there.
Yeah.
It's so extraordinary. Thank you for telling us about that.
Yeah, sure. Yeah.
Good night. I have a question. I have a friend that he's studying with Dr. Nida. And he gave me a mantra that the mantra is not relationate with a deity in special. Tell us about the mantra.
What do you mean?
The mantra isn't relationate with a deity.
It is the what? I cannot hear you.
Not.
It's not the same.
No.
Not the same as what?
No está relacionado con una deidad. ¿Me podrías ayudar, Fabi?
Sí, pero ¿qué es lo que no está relacionado con la deidad? El mantra.
El mantra no está relacionado con ninguna deidad.
El mantra que te dio esta persona que aprendió eso.
Ajá, es para bendecir los alimentos.
¿Qué?
There's a mantra that this person gave Omar, but it's different. It's a different mantra that was given to him to bless the food, but it's not related to the medicine Buddha deity.
Yeah, there are lots of mantras, There are lots of mantras, I was saying this Facebook friend who is like the teaching assistant, for Dr. Nida right now. He just got his PhD. He just went back to South Africa. He shares some very interesting things. He's a scholar. He's a practitioner, he just shared a translation that he, I don't know if he found, but it is in the Buddhist canon. It's like, thus have I heard, you know how Buddhist texts start, right? Thus have I heard at one time the Buddha was at this place, blah, blah, blah. And then the monks in this area, they all suffer from hemorrhoids. Then the Buddha said, okay, for your hemorrhoids, here is a mantra.
Mhm.
You know, so if anyone has that problem, go look at that, go to Facebook and look for the mantra, you know. There are mantras for all kinds of things. Some even things that you think, what? You know? Yeah, there are mantras for like stealing your neighbor's wife, you know. I mean, really. And to tell the truth, I don't know what to do with that, you know. No, I'm not talking about whether I want or don't want to steal my neighbor's wife. It's like, I don't know what to do with the presence of such mantras, you know. Like, wait, what is this supposed to mean, you know?
I have a related question, but it's between the other mantra that is probably more known for the Nirmanakaya version. So
this mantra is just particular to this terma.
yes, and I may have gotten a little bit lost when you said this terma is the one that comes with the Sambhogakaya form.
Yes.
And the Nirmanakaya form is from another tradition, another.
That's like found in India in the main Medicine Buddha sutras, you know. Yeah, termas are not from sutra. Yeah, termas originate from Guru Rinpoche, usually, sometimes from one or two other figures. Yeah, these are special teachings. Yeah. In India, you can search high and low. You are never going to find any evidence of a Sambhogakaya Buddha, Sambhogakaya Medicine Buddha. It's unique to this terma.
Okay.
Then within this terma, the usual, the common Medicine Buddha mantra is right there.
Mm-hmm.
It's just longer, you know. Some other things are added. So just in case, you know, you can only attend this class and you don't feel like, God, I just attended a history class. I wanted to know more about the practice. Let us now jump to the mantra since you asked about the mantra. So let's go look at the mantra. Let me say something about that, whatever I'm able to say. So if you look at the mantra, yeah, this is page 25. On the top of page 25, yeah, Om Namo Bhagavate, Guru Bedurya Prabharajaya Tata Gataya Arahate Samya Sang Buddhaya Teta Om Benkanze Mahan Benkanze Raja Samugate Swaha. Raja Samugate Swaha. Swaha is not here, okay? Yeah, you see that? But if you add a Swaha after Raja Samugate Swaha, that's the standard Medicine Buddha mantra. There is a variation in some traditions is Tayata Om Benkanze Maha Benkanze, then another Benkanze Raja Samugate Swaha. In the common Medicine Buddha mantra, the only variant is either Tayata Om Benkanze Maha Benkanze Raja Samugate Swaha, or Tayata Om Benkanze Maha Benkanze Raja Samugate Swaha. So two Benkanze and two Benkanze before Maha and two Benkanze after Maha. Yeah, that's the Indic, meaning text that come from India. You're going to find these two variants. And that's it. Only in this terma do you have this version where Swaha is not even there. Then you add Hari Nisa, Mahasarva Siddhi Pala Ho. Yeah. Now let's look at the common medicine Buddha mantra part first. The first part. Om. Om precedes almost all mantras. O, U, three sounds there. O, U, Om. The Om, it's a nasalization. So it's Om. There's that sound. There's a nasalization. Om. So Om. Namo is homage. Bhagavate is like Lord. Bhagavate. Guru Bedurya. Guru is mentor, master. Bedurya, often translated as lapis lazuli, right? Actually, more accurate, it should be beryl. B-E-R-Y-L. Don't tell too many people, okay? Because I sell a lot of lapis lazuli mala. No, just kidding. Everybody buying lapis lazuli mala, they say, oh, this is good for medicine Buddha. This is good for medicine Buddha. Actually, Bedurya is beryl, B-E-R-Y-L. And you say, well, what's the difference, right? Lapis lazuli is opaque. Beryl is, it's like almost translucent, luminous. Yeah, so it's Bedurya is beryl.
That's interesting. If I may add, because in my I'm a gemologist also, and so beryl is actually aquamarine and emerald, which manifest in very unique conditions of pressure and depth.
Okay.
Inside the earth. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Prabharajaya. It's like the great king. Great king of medicine. Tathagataya arhate samya sambuddhaya. Tathagata, the dusk gone one, arhate, the arhat, the perfect Buddha, right? So this is just not just, but the first part of this mantra is homage to the master of healers, the beryl. So the beryl is actually kind of referring to the color of his complexion, his form. So he's often depicted blue, but this is like an emerald blue, quartz-like, not opaque. And king of healers as well, right? Then the mantra is, the next part is Deyata Om Bekanze Bekanze, which is like the healer, the great healer, and the king of great healers. So Raja, Samukate, I forgot what Samukate is, but more interesting here for us is Hari Nisa, right? Is the seed syllable of those 4 dakinis. The 4 healing dakinis that is described in this practice. Yeah? The Sambhogakaya medicine Buddha that appears in front, in the space in front, he's surrounded by 4 dakinis. Yeah, a white dakini standing in front, a yellow dakini standing to his right, a red dakini standing behind him, and a green dakini standing to his left. So Hari Nisa are the 4 syllables, seed syllables of these 4 healing dakinis, the 4 mothers. Maha is great. Sarva Siddhi. Sarva is all. Maha is great. The great and all accomplishments. May it come to fruition. Palaho. May the result of the attainment of the great and all siddhis. The great siddhi, the great accomplishment is Buddhahood. The all siddhis is all other accomplishments that can help sentient beings. May they come to fruition. So that's the general meaning of this unique medicine Buddha mantra. Hari Nisa Maha Sarvasiddhi Palaho. Any questions about this? Or comments?
You say the palaho was come to fruition?
Yeah, made it. Yeah. Pala is result, fruit. Ho is like an exclamation, you know.
Dr. Lai,
Mm-hmm.
what is the difference between the syllable of a deity and the life force syllable?
Often is seed syllable. Whenever they use life force syllable, it's often talking about the seed syllable. Meaning this is what animates the deity. Or this is the deity in the form of sound, the deity in the form of a syllable.
I have a question.
Mm-hmm.
Is the great in all accomplishments, is that a way that Dzogchen is expressed here in this sadhana?
The great accomplishment is Maha is like Buddhahood, you know.
Yeah.
The attainment of Buddhahood. So when it comes to attainment of Buddhahood, it's not necessarily Dzogchen or Chakchen or, you know, Mahamudra, Mahaati, you know. It's talking about attaining Buddha.
Uh-huh.
Of course, within the Yuto Nyingtik system, it's the set of practices that we would identify as Dzogchen. Yeah, of course. But Dzogchen also is not one thing, you know.
Yeah, yeah.
Dzogchen is an umbrella term for many related systems of practice, you know.
Yes.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So in the context of this being an appendage, right? This very small terma tradition being an appendage to the Yuto Nyingtik terma tradition, then yes, it's referring to that. But it's not limited to that, because essentially it's saying, may the fruit of Buddhahood and the fruit of like having ability to help and heal others, may these two come to fruition. Especially for healers, you know, doctors, healers. This sadhana is very nice.
Oh, yeah.
Especially the lineage prayer, like the one that comes after this, when it starts talking about, you know, let the sick, you know, meet the doctors that can diagnose what's wrong with them. Yeah, sometimes no matter how good a doctor is, right? If the karmic connection is not there, he or she cannot diagnose what is wrong with you. And even after diagnosing what is wrong with you, right? He might not be able to prescribe what will work for you. And even if she is able to prescribe, you know, you might not be able to digest it. So the whole process of how healing happens. It's actually taught, in this prayer here.
Mm-hmm.
It's really beautiful,
Mm-hmm.
Okay, page 24, yeah. Here is see, at the page 24 towards the bottom, at the heart centers of each of the 4 goddesses, the 4 dakinis, in the center of a moon-disk seeds, right, are the syllables, clockwise circling, never mind, syllables Hari Nisa. So these syllables are associated with the 4 dakinis. Hari Nisa. In Vajravarahi practice, the dakinis are also Hari Nisa. In some Mahakala texts, the dakinis are also Hari Nisa. So the Hari Nisa is the common syllables for the 4 attendant dakinis. But the 4 attendant dakinis are not like 4 independent beings running around, They are like the activities of the central figure. They express what the central figure does in specific contexts. So you should not think, these are like 4 servants dancing around to entertain, Sambhogakaya Buddha, medicine Buddha. But there are 4 instances how medicine Buddha uses pacifying methods. So in the context of medicine, medicine that pacifies. Then the southern, so the eastern dakini is pacifying, right? Then the southern dakini, the yellow one, how in this case, right, the activity of healing is functioning to increase your metabolism, increase your strength, increase your ability to absorb medicine, increase your immune system. Yeah, so it's increasing. The red dakini in the back is to attract and to absorb outside conditions that are conducive to your healing. Then the northern dakini, that's like the prophylactic and the one that goes attack, the invading viruses and bacteria. But these days, don't activate her too much. Most people, COVID-19, are dying because that goes out of hand, So when you think of her, don't like say, oh, get to work, It's like, no, calm down. Yeah, the wrathful one. Sometimes we think, oh, the wrathful one, right? I don't know much about medical science, but I think a lot of times many of the COVID patients die because the immune system has gone out of whack. It perceives, this virus to be so dangerous that it's overblown. It's sort of like, cure a cold by blowing up the head. So if anything, it's, calm down, don't fall out of balance.
Which one? Yeah.
Hello.
Which one is that, Dr. Lai?
The green dakini in the northern
Was
direction.
that the green?
Yeah, the green dakini
Okay.
in the northern direction. Yes.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you.
White dakini in the eastern direction, front. Yellow dakini in the southern direction, right side. Red dakini in the western direction, behind. Green dakini in the left. On the left, that's the northern direction. Yeah.
And that's the wrathful.
Yes.
Okay.
Pacifying, increasing, attracting, controlling, destroying.
Okay. Thank you.
So these are the 4 activities. So these 4 activities, you know, is repeated. Like if this practice was Kurukule, the deity of attraction, then correspondingly, you know, there are also the 4 activities of the activity of attraction. So here the 4 activities apply to the context of healing. So you have to think, this dakini is to soothe. It's like the painkiller, but the painkiller that, you know, don't result in addiction. Yeah, the painkiller, the one that calms you down, the one that cools you down, and the increase, you know, increasing your ability to absorb medicine, your ability to be mentally, you know, optimistic, to be expansive. So that's the yellow dakini. The red dakini is to attract. Meaning attracting the right conditions, attracting the right doctor, attracting the right nurses, attracting the right medicine, all of that. Destroying is to destroy obstacles, to destroy harm. It is also, the 4 of them is also love, compassion, joy, and equanimity. You see how the destroyer dakini is in essence, when it is actually the dakini, equanimity is her essence. Without equanimity, this is trouble. The wrath is trouble. Then it's samsaric, then it's hell realm. The attraction and the control, if joy is not the essence, right, then this control is manipulative. But if through joy it is attracting, then there is no deception. There is no abuse, so to say. It's your joyful state that is attracting that which is helpful, that which is beneficial. And if others feel like they cannot resist you, it's not because you are diabolical, you know, and casting spells. It's because your joy attracts them. So that's the essence of the attraction dakini. Compassion is the essence of the increasing dakini. But if we are not actually like practicing or generating the Buddha's way of understanding compassion, then the ordinary compassion is very depleting, right? Compassion fatigue. If it is Buddha's compassion, no fatigue ever is involved. So in fact, compassion is a bad word in English. It doesn't explain the Buddha's. Karuna is not to suffer with. The literal meaning of compassion, passion, is to suffer with. Yeah, to suffer with, of course, you know, you're going to get fatigue at a certain point. So the near enemy of confusion, compassion, right, is very depleting. But if you have true karuna, the way the Buddha talked about karuna, then the essence of increase, of expansiveness, right, is the more karuna, the more expansive, the more wealthy, so to say, the more gracious. The essence of pacifying is love. What cools down things better than kindness, friendliness? That's the essence. Because if we're not careful with pacifying, right, it's dulling. Yeah, it's dulling. It's making it like avoidance, you know, like painkiller. But this is the essence of the pacifying, comes from practicing metta. When you practice metta, right, it feels good. And then when you're at ease, your fight and flight or fight, right, is unnecessary. You don't have to activate that. You can be at rest. This kind of at rest is because you have metta, not because you're lazy, Oh, resting in nature of mind. That's laziness resting, But here you're resting because you are glowing with metta. Then it's very restful. It's very pacifying. So these are the 4 activities of the 4 dakinis. Good? That's it tonight. At this point, you're like, 3 classes? 4 maybe we're not going to finish. I don't know. We see. The Lojong class, started with, we'll have a few classes. Then 4 months later, we finish Lojong in 7 points. So anyway, this is being recorded. We'll put it on the Drigung Dharma Kirti YouTube channel for now. If you know friends who, can't come tonight, but still want to know some things, you can direct them. But otherwise, I don't feel the need to just broadcast this. So we're not live streaming in Facebook. It's not a secret either, I'm saying, yeah, share with people that you think might be interested, but I'm not going to publicize it beyond our group. And but if you have the Zoom information for this, again, for other people that were at the retreat and they want to participate, you can just give them this Zoom information for next Thursday. It will be the same information for next Thursday's class, and the same Zoom login ID. Okay, good, everybody? Okay, now page 40. Let's do dedication and aspiration and praise. On the top of page 40, that's the, in English, yeah. Medicine Guru, granter of compassion, 4 medicine protecting goddesses, Shanglun, and the rest of the haughty assembly, I praise you and your retinues. By this virtuous merit that I have accumulated, may all sicknesses and unfavorable conditions be fully pacified. May all our wishes be effortlessly accomplished. May I reach enlightenment like you, Medicine Buddha. Thank you. One last thing. For those of you who would like to do this practice on a regular basis, I should have talked about this. Starting on 10. Yeah. And in fact, 10, on page 10, starting with the section that says in the Buddha, Dharma, and Supreme Assembly, starting there, those 4 lines. Yeah. So those 4 lines. Then go to the top of 11, those 4 lines, the 4 immeasurables. That's the usual way, we start our practice. So after that, then you can skip to page 14. So 14, 15, 16, 17. Yeah. Uh, 17. To the top of 17. Then from the top of 17, so before the section up until before inviting the primordial wisdom beings. Yeah. So from there, 17, you go to the top of 18. And the top of 18 is the first 3 lines with Ja Hom Bam Ho Samaya Tishta Len. That. Ja Hom Bam Ho Samaya Tishta Len. Right? Then go to offerings, 19. See right in the middle of that section, Om Sarva Tathagata Argam. You see that? Right in the middle of there. Om Sarva Tathagata Argam, right? Praticca Swaha. Do the 8 offerings. Argam, Padyang, Pushpe, Dupe, Aloke, Gende, Nevede, Shapta. Just that simplified 8 offerings. Om Sarva Tathagata Argam Pratishtha Swaha. Om Sarva Tathagata Padyang Pratishtha Swaha. Then Pushpe, Dupe, Aloke, Gende, Nevede, Shapta. On page 19. Then 22, 23, 24, 25 is the mantra. Then if you have time, continue on to the prayer. 25, 26, 27. If you don't have time, it's fine. No need to do this long prayer. If you have time, do that, right? Then all the way to 29, right? From 29, go to the top of 40. What we recited. Yeah, what we recited. Right? Then skip down to Om. You fulfill all the aims of sentient beings. But of course, before that, you do Vajrasattva mantra 3 times. That middle section you can include if you want. It's just, but it wasn't in the Chodra's original. You can include the middle. That means the whole page of 40 to 41. Then you're done. 40 to 41. Then you're done. That's the shortest. You got all the pages? There's a question about mudra. Well, the 8 offerings mudra. During the 8 offerings, Argam Padyam, Argam Padyam Pushpe Dhupe Aloke Gende Nivede Shabda. Then if you know, Za Hom Bang Ho. Otherwise, if you ask me, I would say at the beginning, when you're just gaining familiarity with this practice, and especially this kind of practice, if you're new, don't try to do too many things. And don't be afraid to abbreviate the sadhana, not out of laziness, but out of knowing your capacity, saying, no, I can't, do just recite. Then it will really kill your connection to the practice. Yes, ideally, yeah, you do all of it, but that's not neither here nor there, It's not where everybody is. So with sincerity of heart is most important. With sincerity of heart, wanting to connect with Medicine Buddha, then you think, and if just that, with sincerity of heart, wanting to connect to Medicine Buddha, understanding that in connecting with Medicine Buddha, you can be more efficient, more capable, more able to also benefit others and bring them closer to the state of Buddha. For that purpose, recite the mantra. That's it. And while reciting the mantra, if you can, you think in the space in front of you is Medicine Buddha in the Sambhogakaya form. Yourself is the Nirmanakaya form, Medicine Buddha. And from the heart of Medicine Buddha, the Hong syllable and your Hong syllable, they are completely connected and in fact identical. Then just say the mantra, 7 times, 10 times, 21 times each day. So make that connection first, Make that kind of connection first. Rather than like going into all the details, you get derailed. I've seen so many people getting derailed. And if you don't get derailed, you get caught up in all the exotic things and no heart connection. That heart connection has to be there. Yeah. Good night. And we'll see you next time.
Thank you.
Yeah. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Gracias.
Maestro, Dr. Lex.
Anytime, man. That was excellent.